The Singapore National Day Parade is a national ceremony in Singapore that, as its name implies, includes a parade on Singapore's National Day on August 9th, in commemoration of Singapore's independence, that is usually held at the Padang, the national stadium. Various decentralized venues all over Singapore are afloat at Marina Bay. History: Singapore celebrated its first National Day as an independent nation in 1966, 1 year after Singapore's separation from Malaysia on the 9th of August 1965. The first National Day parade started in the morning at 9 o'clock a.m. that day. People came as early as 7 o'clock a.m. in order to get good vantage points. Singapore's first president, Mr. Yusof bin Ishak, and Singapore's first Prime Minister, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, were seated with members of the government at the grandstand on the steps of City Hall. When the parade began, 6 military contingents, a mobile column from the SIR, and various schools and civil contingents marched past City Hall and then into the city streets. 3 military bands accompanied the parade inspection, and later the march passed with military music. The Singapore Fire Brigade also took part in this first parade, with its fire trucks included in the mobile column. Rounding it all was a masked lion and dragon dance performance from drummer dragon troops nationwide. The following year, the contingents increased to 76, including those of the then-established Singapore Armed Forces, the RSP, and more cultural groups, with the addition of more civil marching groups. The reason is partly due to the introduction of the National Service Program in the military and police forces, and later extended to the Fire Brigade, later called the Singapore Fire Services, in the 1970s. Street performances by various groups also debuted in that year's parade. The 1968 edition, although held on a rainy morning that surprised even the marching contingents and the dignitaries, saw the first ground performances on the Padang as the weather improved, a prelude to today's show performances. 1969's parade, the one where the mobile column made its first drive past, commemorated the 150th year of the city's founding and had Princess Alexandra of the UK as principal guest. On the August 9, 1970 NDP edition, the fly-past of the state flag and the Republic of Singapore Air Force fly-past debuted. A combat simulation performance by Singapore Army personnel was one of the new highlights for that year. The 1971 NDP was the first to include the iconic mobile parade floats from various organizations. Choirs also debuted on that year's edition. The 1973 parade was held from the afternoon to early evening for the first time to attract more attendance from the public. The next year, color broadcasts of the parade on television began. The 1975 parades, held to celebrate Singapore's 10th year, were for the first time decentralized into 13 parade venues for more public participation. Almost all of them lasted for an hour, and all of them even had route marches on the streets to the participating venues. By the time the NDP was held at the National Stadium in 1976, the NDP Guard of Honor, composed of officers and personnel of the SAF and the Singapore Police Force, made its first appearance, followed after the parade proper by the very first evening presentations by various groups, a prelude to future evening NDPs in 1980 and from 1984 onward. 1977's parade was a decentralized event like 2 years before, while 1978 would see the parade back at the Padang grounds. 1979's parade was yet another decentralized one, held in several high schools and sports stadiums nationwide. The 1980 parade, held at the National National Stadium. Almost rained at the start, but the performances went on as planned as the weather improved later. This was the first parade in which the feu de joie of the Guard of Honor contingents made its inaugural appearance. 1981's NDP was the very first parade appearance of the then SPF Civil Defense Command, presently the Singapore Civil Defense Force, later combined with the SFS in 1989. They were held in two decentralized venues, Jurong and Queenstown sports stadiums, for further increased public attendance and participation in the celebrations. 1982's parade, back at the Padang site, featured more contingents, and for the first time the mobile column drove past after the march past had concluded, thus making it a predecessor to the parades at the Padang from 1995 onward. 1983 would be the final year that the NDP was held in multiple venues. The 1984 NDP, now back at the Padang, celebrated Singapore's silver jubilee of self-governance and included a bigger mobile column, the first appearance of the popular silent precision drill squad from the Singapore Armed Forces Military Police Command, and the first true evening fireworks display, while NDP 1985 celebrated the nation's 20th year with more participants in the parade segment and in the show proper. The 1986 edition was the first true evening edition of the parade, and the first to use flashlights for audience use. 1987's parade, held at the Padang, was the first ever evening event held there and featured the first appearance of the massed military bands of the SAF. 1988 saw the card stunt feature being used for the first time during the National Stadium event at the 1989 edition. The first National Stadium daytime event saw the debut of the nationally famous Red Lions parachute team and the daylight fireworks after 1966. The parade returned to the Padang in 1992, honor the nation's Silver Jubilee year, which would turn out to be the last afternoon event ever to be held. In 1997, for the first time, there was a national education show where primary 5 students watch NDP rehearsals. The government set up the electronic voting ticketing system in 2003 in order to tackle the problem of overcrowding. Such ticketing system enables citizens to stand a chance at winning the tickets by registering their email addresses or mobile numbers at the NDP website or phone lines. Starting 2008, the NDP is also aired all over the Asia-Pacific region through Channel News Asia. 2009's NDP was the first ever edition to have an integrated show including the parade segment. In 2014, 3rd Warrant Officer Shirley N became the first female Red Lion parachutist to jump at the NDP 2015's parade, even as all was planned for the parade to be at the Padang. Will be the first ever parade to be held both there and at the float at Marina Bay, breaking a parade tradition in the process. NDP 2015 is the first National Day parade without the founding leader Lee Kuan Yew, who never missed a single National Day parade since 1966, for whom he had died on the 23rd of March 2015, within 8 months after attending the 2014 edition. NDP editions. The venue of the parade is usually at the historical grounds of the Padang, where the Declaration of Singapore's independence was held. Since the first parade in 1966, all the way to 1975, the venue was located in this central area to bring the parade closer to the people. In 1976, the parade was held for the first time at the newly completed National Stadium, where the the much larger capacity allowed for more to view to the parade live. Although offering about 60,000 seats in the National Stadium, the demand for tickets remained high. Hence there were several attempts to decentralize the venue to bring the celebration closer to more Singaporeans. From 1975 to 1983, celebrations were alternated between a decentralized event and one centered at the Padang Stadium. From 1984, the parade was held twice at the stadium before being brought back to the Padang. This three-year cycle was repeated up to 1994. From 1995, it was decided that the Padang would be used as the venue every 5 years. The Padang, although historically important, posed a greater logistical challenge and also offered fewer seats for spectators. The event and rehearsals also required the closing of surrounding roads. There was a need to construct temporary spectator stands around the field. The site remained, however, the only feasible venue for the mobile column, as the heavy vehicles could not be driven onto the stadium track. The Padang was used as the main performance venue for the 2005 parade, with fringe activities decentralized to Marina South, Jurong East, Yishun and Tampines. Several alternate locations were mooted, including the utilization of the Padang, which is physically bigger and less likely to disrupt daily functions in the city. On the 16th of October 2005, it was announced that the 2006 NDP would be held at the old stadium for the last time before moving to the float at Marina Bay. The 130 meters by 100 meters platform would be used for the next 5 years until the new stadium is completed. Although offering a seating capacity of only 27,000, which is less than National Stadium, there is a vast area for 150,000 extra spectators along the Marina Bay waterfront. Since the 2000s, every year's parade would revolve around a theme which would guide the planning of the parade and show. After 10-year hiatus, the 2016 edition of NDP will return back to the new National Stadium logos. Beginning from 1998, a unique logo design was selected to represent NDP on all fronts. Even though there had been logos for some previous years' parades, these were only for years of special commemoration, such as 25th anniversary of nation building and the Silver Jubilee in 1990. For all other years' National Day celebrations, slogans have been used. An example of this is Our Singapore, Our Future, that was first used in the 1997 celebrations. With the introduction of an NDP logo for 1998, every NDP logo henceforth would be designed to suit the themes, in particular the foundation theme, of the parade. In addition, a tagline, which was previously known as a slogan, would be added to the logo design. For example, the tagline for NDP 2005 was, "The future is ours to make." These taglines are usually taken from previous National Day rallies for the purpose of rallying the nation together on the 9th of August to meet the challenges ahead. The tagline, "Together we make the difference," was introduced in 1999 due to the launch of the Singapore 21 project, and was replaced by "Together, a New Singapore" in 2002 when then Prime Minister Goh Chok Tong proposed the Remaking Singapore initiative in the National Day Rally 2001. In the logo of NDP 2007, blue has taken over the traditional red to symbolize the water around the Marina Bay area. However, it is important to note that the themes and taglines are largely different, and it is the theme that the parade show segment on. In some cases, both will be based on. parade sequence. Although the program and sequence of the parade did change over the years, several components and the overall flow of the parade have remained intact for the past 4 decades. With the shifting of venues for some editions of the parade, the program may see slight modifications in order to suit the venue. For instance, the mobile column, which is only possible both at the Padang site and at Marina Bay. Stage and backdrop design. Pre-parade. The pre-parade segment today may include mass displays, choir performances, school band displays, skydiving displays, and other light-hearted performances to entertain the crowd prior to the parade proper, with the added positive effect of encouraging parade attendees to be seated earlier. Initially introduced on an ad hoc basis as an informal filler, it has since become an integral part of the parade, particularly when live television coverage was extended to this segment in recent years. As audience participation has become a part of the parade, the pre-parade segment also becomes an opportunity for the host to lead and rehearse with the audience actions they may have to do when the parade proper begins. Motivators from Touch Community Services were introduced to the pre-parade in 2002. Touch Community Services has since moved on to mentoring students from the various institutes of technical education and various polytechnics since 2003 until the present, under the leadership and AMP mentoring program. Colorful costumes and dance moves have been designed for the motivators. Parade and ceremonies. The parade has been a traditional segment of the National Day Parade. Participants of the parade include members of the Singapore Armed Forces, Singapore Police Force, Singapore Civil Defence Force, representatives of the People's Action Party, different labour unions and ministries, as well as students in uniformed groups and representatives of various Singapore business entities. Participants are split into 2 main sections: the Guard of Honour contingents and the supporting contingents. The 4 Guard of Honour contingents are made up of members from the 3 arms of the Singapore Armed Forces as well as the Singapore Police Force. All members of these contingents are dressed in the respective ceremonial uniforms, known as the No. 1 uniform. Behind the Guard of Honour contingents stand the Regimental Colours Party, where the 32 SAF regimental colours are held by a group of officers, known as ensigns, from the Singapore Armed Forces, with their armed escorts. The 3 state colours are in between the Navy and Air Force Guard of Honour contingents, and are formed by escorts and ensigns. The parade's military bands are from both the SAF and SPF, and in recent years, the marching bands of both services cadet organizations have joined them as well. Before the 1994 creation of the SAF bands, the different service arms of the SAF fielded their own bands, and the massed bands for the parade were from the Singapore Infantry Regiment Band and the Singapore Police Force Band. The parade traditionally starts with the parade regimental sergeant major forming up the parade on either the Padang, the field of the National Stadium, or in front of the Marina Bay grandstand. The command of the parade is handed over to the parade commander once the parade has been formed up and properly dressed accordingly. Typically, both the parade RSM and the parade commander come from the SAF, and usually hold a minimum rank of Master Warrant Officer and Lieutenant Colonel respectively. Upon sizing and forming up the parade to full formation, the parade commander will wait for the arrival of the members of Parliament, members of the Cabinet and the Prime Minister of Singapore, in that order. Upon the arrival of each group, the parade will present its salute and present arms, except for the Parliament and Cabinet members, upon which they stand at attention and only the PC salutes them. Lastly, once the President of Singapore has arrived, the parade commander will call for a full salute, during which the national anthem, Majulah Singapura, will be played, accompanied by a fly-past of the state flag. And from 2011, would also require raising it as well on a separate flagpole. After that, the parade commander will request that the president inspects the parade. During this inspection, the president will be accompanied by the chief of defense force and the parade commander, and the Army Go contingent commander would later join them once they approach the Guard of Honor. A presidential 21-gun salute is also given to the president during this time by a select battery from the Singapore Artillery. It is customary that the president speaks to some members of the Guard of Honor contingents as he passes by. After the inspection ends, the president will return to the podium before the Guard of Honor contingents presents a feu de joie led by the parade commander. At the end of it, the parade commander will ask the president for permission for the parade march past to start. 2012's edition formally included an advance in review order to the proceedings for the first time. March past. The parade commander will command the parade contingents to prepare for the march past, and will then march out of the parade grounds, with the bands bringing the rear. In the National Day Parade 2009, there was a city march past where the contingents marched around the central business district, with the march ending at the F1 pit building. In the National Day Parade 2010, the city march past made its second appearance, and this time the Marina Bay area was the venue for this, with the Marina Padang as the final stop on the march past. 2011 saw the reinstatement of the March Through the Stands moment of the supporting contingents of the SAF, SPF and SCDF, and that year the participants of the youth uniformed groups and the civilian contingents marched out in a different way, only for all of them to reunite for the city march past later on. The 2012 edition of the parade, the very first National Day Parade officiated by the President Tony Tan Keng Yam, had the Onward March, which was now done for the second time by all of the youth uniformed groups present, while the military and civilians supporting contingents marched out in a different way similar to the march past during the 2000 and 2010 editions, with all of them rejoining for the city march past to be done later with the Go contingent battalion to Marina Bay Sands where the march ended. The Onward March made yet another appearance in the 2014 edition alongside the city march past after the parade proper towards the MBS complex. The city march past made its sixth consecutive appearance in the 2015 edition and will return in 2016 together with the Onward March from the new National Stadium mobile column. The first mobile column was organized in 1969, which displayed the then newly acquired armor vehicles of the SAF, the RSP's police vehicles and the SFB's fire trucks. In 1990, after an absence of 6 years, the mobile column made a comeback as Singapore celebrated its 25th year of independence. Since then, it has been on show during the more important anniversaries of the nation's birthday, such as the 1995, 2000, 2005, 2010 and 2015 editions held at the Padang. The 2020 NDP will also feature the mobile column, including the SAF's newest vehicles such as the Leopard 2A4 main battle tank and other vehicles. For the uniformed services of the Republic, show segment highlights. The spectacular show segment follows the traditional parade and ceremony and lasts normally for 45 minutes. Following the theme of the parade that year, the show will feature 3 main acts that culminates in her finale, that will usually feature the theme song of that year's parade, followed by the much-anticipated fireworks display. The entire parade will end in a chorus of voices singing familiar National Day songs, mass pledge-taking and the singing of the national anthem. In 2007, the parade broke tradition for having a fireworks display that synchronized with the Sing Singapore medley in the finale. In 2009, for the first time ever, all the segments of the NDP have been merged into one integrated program. This would be repeated in 2015. It has its origins in early NDPs as various mass display items put up by community groups or schools to add color to the otherwise military parade. These items revolved around the themes of racial harmony, ruggedness among youths, etc., which are represented by ethnic dances and mass gymnastics displays. This section evolved over the years to become more theatrical. For the massive flashcard displays that complemented the parade in the 1980s to multimedia projections in recent shows. Float displays also featured prominently in the show segments of the 1970s and 1980s, where floats were designed to promote government campaigns or highlight the works of various public and private companies. This returned in NDP 2005 as a visual representation of Singapore's past 40 years of nation building, with further reappearances at NDP 2009 and at NDP 2010 to symbolize the mixture of peoples that make up Singapore today. Parades today, held from dusk to night, end in the climax of fireworks displays which have become a signature item of national days. However, in the early parades that were held in the day and late afternoon to evening NDP editions from 1973 to 1980, 1982 and 1984, mass lion and dragon dance displays are actually the parade finale. Lion and dragon dance troupes from various community centers and clan associations would gather on the field to the resonating sound of drumbeats to put on a fiery display that end the parade on an auspicious note. These troupes later became integral parts of the 1985 and the 1988 to 1989 NDP editions. Participating organizations. Though every show would see the participation of an assortment of public and private companies, there are three main anchors taking on each act. They are the People's Association, the Singapore Soccer Association and the Ministry of Education, which would be represented by an individual institution or a cluster of schools. The latter also provides the Combined Schools Band and the Combined School Choirs, another regular part of the NDP itself, and since the 1970s has been part of the national celebrations. The ministry also provides the School Display Band for the pre-parade segment of the program, coming from one of the many schools in the island country pre-selected for the event. Multimedia show. Various types of high-tech multimedia equipment are used during the actual show segment, and they include: in 2003, PIGI projection technology was used, the same technology used for the 2000 Summer Olympics opening, closing ceremony. In 2004, the biggest LED screen in Singapore, measuring 31 meters by 7 meters, consisting of 23 separate panels in width and 7 panels in height was used. This setup is also one of the largest outdoor screens in the world. In this year, for the first time, public could send National Day greetings via SMS, MMS that will be shown on this LED screen. In 2005, panoramic screen and still image projectors were used. The panoramic screen is made up of 26 individual screens, each measuring 10 meters by 6 meters. Still image projectors were used to project the colorful images onto the screen. Also, two large LED screens, each measuring 8 meters by 6 meters, will be used to screen numerous videos and live feeds. In 2006, same as 2003, is using PIGI projection technology. At the center of the stadium, a giant light-emitting diode screen is able to split into 6 smaller screens to provide a powerful visual impact. In 2007, water curtain, 30 meters high and 90 meters wide, with visual effects provided by 6 image projectors. In 2008, LED mesh, consisting of thousands of tiny LED lights which will form a gigantic video screen. In 2009, Piggy projections and LED mesh screens, combined with special lighting effects, will deliver multimedia content. Post-parade parties began in 1997 in a big way when it was televised on TV and featured top celebrity acts. The purposes of the post-parade segment are to congratulate and acknowledge the hard work put in by the participants of the parade, as well as to provide entertainment to the audience awaiting to leave the stadium. Padang or Marina Bay. The post-parade celebrations will normally last for 1 hour and will end with the Chief of Defence Force, the chairman of that year's NDPEXCO, and the organisers cutting a cake to celebrate with the participants yet another successful National Day parade, and speeches of gratitude to the participants for a job well done. The party is now normally anchored by the SAF Music and Drama Company.